Alright YouTube, so what I've got going on here is I've got a bench for outdoors I'm going to be assembling real quick. This was purchased on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description if you're interested. Let's go ahead and get this thing put together. This was just a little note saying to look everywhere for hardware pouches as they may be stuck around the box. So be aware of that. It says underneath the seat, behind the product, behind the zipper, or in the Velcro pouch. The first thing I like to do is get everything just kind of taken out of the box, get all the packaging off of it, and kind of inventory what you've got. There are labels on this. This was labeled C, this was labeled D, so that'll make assembly a little bit easier as well. Usually the instructions will call out parts based on that, the labeling. So we've got our instructions here. There's a hardware pack. I'm just going to look through here to make sure I'm not missing any hardware packs because I've only found one so far. But it doesn't look like there's a lot of parts here. It looks like we only have 5 parts total. So the next thing I like to do is take a quick look at the instructions just to see if it tells me anything relevant. According to the picture, it does look like these are all of the parts. Let's go ahead and get our hardware package opened. And there's like a bunch of different little bags here, so let's get all those open, get all the parts out. They are labeled numerically, so maybe I'll leave them in there. It's pretty straightforward. This all looks pretty easy. We're going to put the back, which is this part, this curved piece. This is part A, according to the instructions. There is an A there. So we're going to put that on the ground facing up. And we're going to bolt the sides to it using our number 1 screws. So, alright, so there's going to be a bit of a dowel pin here and two holes there on the side. So the dowel pin is going to go in the lower hole. Take one of your number 1 screws. Might actually be a good idea to have a helper here. Make sure you don't cross thread this, especially since, oh actually that's not a bad idea right there. So you see what I did there is I kind of got it started. Then I can get my dowel pin, put it in there, then put it in my next screw on the side. I'll get a better camera angle for the other side. That way you guys can see what I did there. Actually, I don't like doing it that way. I think it would be easier like this. Okay, so putting this side on, I didn't really have a very good camera angle, so I apologize for that. But basically what you have here are 3 holes. 2 of them are screw holes. 1 is for this little dowel pin on the side to go into. You can see that right there. So you just stick the dowel pin in. And if you have a little bit of a helper, it might be easier just to assemble it like this. The instructions show to have this facing the ground and have these 2 pieces up. But if you've got somebody to help you, you can kind of put it up on one side, or you could probably do that by yourself as well. But you've got your number 1 screws, and go ahead and get those started. I want to tighten them all the way down because you're likely to need to manipulate the parts a little bit as you're adding the other pieces to it. It's a little tricky to get these threads started in this plastic. They're threading into plastic here, and I'm trying not to cross thread it. It's a little tricky there. So I have those threaded most of the way in, but not tightened down yet. Let's see what the instructions say to do next. So it's actually going to have you put this seat bottom in, and you're going to use your number 1 screws again. Looks like there's going to be 2 of those. So you have your dowels here, and you've got 2 holes drilled in the side. You want to put the dowel in the lower hole. Either side. And this is going to flip down. And we're going to have a few screws and we're going to screw it to the back there. So for the back screws, for the side screws you're going to use your number 1s again. And then for the back screws you're going to use your number 2 bolt. So you've got these bolts here. Those are going to go along the 4 holes. You've got 4 holes here with 4 little hooks. You see the hooks here where that's going to go in. I'm going to go ahead and stick one of those in there to hold it in place. As you saw, I dropped it just a moment ago. Don't want that. So I'm going to take one of these, come back here. I'm just going to get it started on the one side here, just so I have something holding it in place. So there we go. I got that started just to kind of support that. I'm going to use my number 1 bolts in the side. You need to wiggle it around a little bit, feel free. Also, I don't know if you saw that, I kind of just separated that a little bit to see where the threads were so I could go ahead and get this bolt started. Go, and I've got it just tight enough to hold it together. I'm going to come over here and do the same thing. Again, if you need to separate it just a little bit to visualize your threads, no problem. Then you're going to take 3 more of your number 2 bolts and put those in the back over here to support the bottom. And at this point, if you have like a moving blanket or something like that you could put down, you could probably tip this up onto its side to have easier access to these bolts. However, the sides of this thing are made out of wood, and I'm on some pretty rough concrete, so I don't want to do that here. But that's a suggestion to make things a little bit easier for you, perhaps. Because if you can't see the threads here, it's actually a little difficult to get started. I'm managing, but it would be easier if you could see it. This is actually somewhat difficult to do without being able to see what you're doing, so I'm going to tip this thing up. actually went ahead and snugged those bolts down because there's really no reason not to. So the last piece is this one. Let's figure out which bolts hold that on there. And just as I suspected, we're going to use bolt 3 here, the threaded bolt. It's going to go into that wood. It looks like we have a bunch of extra parts. It didn't say to use the washers. Oh, you were supposed to use the washers along the back. Okay. Yeah, so you should have used washers on the 4 bolts in the back, but that's the only place you're supposed to use them, apparently, according to the instructions. One other thing to note is that this E is on here. You might want to take that off. Same thing with all the other parts. Just go ahead and pull the stickers off of them once you've got them in place. Okay. Let's go ahead and put this piece into place. This is going to be pretty straightforward. It only fits in one way. And just get your little lag bolt in there. This is where having everything loose is going to come in handy, because if this was already all tightened down, it would be pretty difficult to get that in there. And actually, it was still a little bit snug. If you need to loosen up some of your side bolts on one side just a little bit to get that part in there, that's perfectly fine. But I've got both of my screws started here. I'm going to go ahead and tighten those all the way up. And then I'll go ahead and tighten the 3 bolts on this side, tighten up all the bolts on the other side, and we will have a completed chair here, or bench rather. So if you're tightening these bolts and you start to hear the wood splitting, that means you're over tightening it. You don't want to over tighten it, you just want to get it good and snug. And just another heads up, there are adjustable feet on the bottom. If you're having an issue with it wobbling around, you can adjust those. I'm just going to go ahead and adjust them all the way in to start with. And if they need further adjustment from there, we'll handle that later. But that's it. You've got your bench assembled and you're ready to rock and roll, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you checking out my channel. Hit that like and subscribe button, and thank you again, YouTube. Everyone, if you enjoyed today's video, I would invite you to go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below right there on the right hand corner. And if you felt that the products in today's video is something you might like to own yourself, there's a product link right up there to the right, upper right hand corner, or down in the description will be a product link for you to purchase the product as well. Thank you very much for watching, YouTube.